The first time Emma met Alex, it was in the soft glow of a half-lit cafe, the kind that always smelled faintly of cinnamon and rain. She was sitting by the window with a notebook in front of her, chewing absently on a pen while she tried to coax words from her mind. Alex, rushing in from the storm outside, nearly tripped over her chair. "Sorry," he said, shaking water from his hair like a stray puppy. Emma laughed. "You're going to get someone wet." "Too late," he replied, flashing a grin that was both sheepish and unexpectedly warm. He took the seat at the table beside her, ordering coffee from the barista without glancing at the menu. She noticed his voice, low, calm, as though he never needed to shout to be heard. It wasn't love at first sight, not exactly. It was more like recognition, as though meeting him was remembering something she'd forgotten she'd been searching for. Over the next week, they kept meeting at the same cafe, sometimes by coincidence, sometimes not. He learned she was a freelance illustrator who liked sketching strangers when they weren't looking. She learned he was an urban planner who saw cities as puzzles waiting to be solved. Their conversation slid easily from architecture to music to the best kind of bread. Then one rainy Tuesday evening, as she was packing up her sketchbook, the lights flickered and went out, a citywide blackout. The cafe's usual hum fell into quiet, broken only by the sound of rain against the glass. Someone lit candles, and the dim glow made everything feel dreamlike. "You ever notice," Alex said, leaning closer, "that when the lights go out, people talk softer?" Emma smiled. "Maybe because we're all afraid of breaking the dark. They stayed until closing, talking about the places they wanted to see. He dreamed of Lisbon, she of Kyoto. At one point, he asked, 'If you could be anywhere right now, where would you be?' 'Here,' she said before she could think. Something in his expression shifted, as if the world outside had stopped raining just for them. They started meeting intentionally after that. Dinners, walks, movie nights at his apartment, where they never quite made it through the film. Every moment seemed threaded with the possibility of something more. But Alex had a deadline for a major city project, and Emma had accepted a month-long residency in Florence. Their time together felt borrowed. They didn't need to. It was stitched into their silences. The night before she left, they returned to the cafe. No blackout this time, just the warm yellow lights and the faint sound of jazz. He took her hand across the table. "I'm bad at long distance," he admitted. "I'm bad at letting go," she replied. "So what happens now?" "We wait," she said, "and see if the lights go out again." In Florence, she sent him photos of sunlit streets and tiny cups of espresso. He sent her videos of his progress on the city project. The sound of his voice like a familiar song she could replay when the homesickness hit too hard. But with time zones, deadlines, and the ache of missing someone, their messages slowed. One night, she was sketching the Ponte Vecchio when her phone buzzed. "The lights went out again," Alex had texted. 3 weeks later, she was back in the cafe, sitting by the window. The rain outside mirrored the night they met. She almost believed he wouldn't show, until the door swung open and there he was, shaking water from his hair again. "You're late," she teased. "Only because I was looking for something." He pulled a small box from his coat pocket and set it on the table. Inside was a tiny silver charm shaped like a street lamp. "For when the lights go out," he said. Emma felt the weight of all the unsaid words between them, and this time, she didn't hold back. "I love you." He smiled the same warm, sheepish smile from the first day. "Good, because I've been waiting to say that since the blackout." And just like that, the world outside could have stayed dark forever.
Ethan had worked the night shift at the distribution warehouse for 3 years, long enough to know every sound the building made. The low, steady hum of the conveyor belts, the occasional groan of metal shelving as it settled, the soft hiss of air through the vents. It was the kind of job where nothing unexpected ever happened, and that was exactly how he liked it. But at 2:37 a.m., in the dead middle of a Tuesday, the first sound came. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, somewhere far off toward the darkened loading bay. He stopped mid-step, head tilting toward the sound. The security monitors above his desk showed only empty aisles and still machinery. Frank, the only other guy on shift, was outside on his cigarette break. Ethan tried to tell himself it was the wind rattling one of the huge bay doors. But there was no wind tonight, and the knocks had been too steady, too intentional. Then it came again, 3 knocks followed by a sharp metallic bang like a crowbar hitting steel. His chest tightened, but curiosity shoved him toward the noise. Grabbing his flashlight, he crossed the vast warehouse floor, his footsteps echoing back at him, lonely and hollow. "Hello?" He called out, instantly regretting it as his own voice bounced back in distorted fragments as though the walls were answering in mockery. The beam of light swept over pallets and towers of shrink-wrapped boxes, but the corners of the room swallowed the glow, thickening into a kind of shifting darkness that seemed to breathe. Then he heard it, a whisper. It was faint at first, so faint he thought it might be the crackle of plastic wrap or the sigh of air through a vent. But the sound grew, almost imperceptibly curling into his ear like cold breath. He froze, straining to make out words, but it was just beyond understanding, like someone speaking underwater. A loud bang rang out from the maintenance hallway. Against every rational instinct screaming at him to leave it alone, Ethan moved toward it. The hallway was long and narrow, lit by overhead fluorescents that flickered and hummed, casting jerky shadows that twitched as if alive. The whispering grew sharper, faster, filling the hallway until it felt like the air itself was speaking. At the end of the hall stood the old service room door, slightly open. It shouldn't have been. That room had been locked for years. No one had the key. The door creaked as though inviting him in. Inside was darkness so complete it seemed to press outward, trying to swallow the light. He stepped closer, and that's when the whisper came again, right next to his ear, clear this time. "Run." The flashlight flickered violently, then died, plunging him into darkness. Somewhere in that blackness, something shuffled forward, its steps heavy, dragging, wet-sounding like shoes squelching through mud. He stumbled back, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might tear free from his chest. Then more whispers joined the first, overlapping voices hissing his name, repeating it over and over until the sound seemed to claw at his mind. He turned and bolted, sprinting back down the hallway, his shoulders slamming into shelves, knocking over boxes that crashed to the floor behind him. The bang started again, louder now, coming from every direction at once, as though the very walls were pounding to keep him in. He could hear footsteps in pursuit, impossibly fast, too many to belong to a single person, and with each step they closed the distance. He didn't dare look back. He burst into the main floor of the warehouse, weaving between pallets, nearly tripping over a pallet jack, lungs burning, the whispers still at his back. Somewhere high above, something metal fell and clanged to the ground, echoing like a gunshot. Finally, he spotted the front doors and crashed through them into the cold night air, stumbling into the empty parking lot. Frank was gone. The building behind him was completely silent again, its black windows reflecting nothing but his own pale, terrified face. He didn't go back inside. In fact, he didn't go back at all. His final paycheck arrived 2 weeks later in a plain envelope, with a note from management saying his keycard had been found in the middle of the warehouse floor, right in front of the old service room door. It was locked again from the inside. Daniel had always told himself he wasn't the kind of man who would cheat. He had been with Marissa for 8 years, married for 3, and though life had dulled into a routine of work emails, shared Netflix queues, and Sunday grocery runs, he still believed in the quiet comfort they had built. But the business trip to Singapore felt different from the start. New city, new faces, long hotel nights in the kind of anonymous space where rules seemed to blur. The city itself was seductive in a way that made him feel untethered. Neon lights reflecting on wet streets, the hum of nightlife spilling into alleyways, the smell of street food mingling with rain. It happened on the second night. Her name was Lila, a marketing consultant from another firm, quick-witted and dangerous in the way she laughed at everything he said, and something about her attention made him feel younger, alive in a way he hadn't realized he missed. The drinks turned into a walk along the waterfront, the walk into a taxi, the taxi into a hotel room that wasn't his. He told himself it was a one-time mistake, something to lock away in the far corners of his mind. When he returned home, he doubled down on being the attentive husband. Flowers, cooking dinner, even suggesting a weekend getaway. Marissa seemed pleased but wary, as though she could sense a ripple in the current beneath them. He thought he'd gotten away with it. Months passed. He checked his phone compulsively, deleting messages, avoiding Lila's social media. He started leaving work later, making sure he had plausible excuses for any missed calls or forgotten errands. But Marissa's subtle observations made him paranoid. She would notice lipstick on a glass, a faint scent on his jacket, a hesitation in his voice. He told himself she was imagining things, that he was careful enough, smart enough to escape the consequences of his actions. Then one Friday evening, Marissa sat him down with her laptop open.
"Do you remember your Singapore trip?" she asked, voice neutral.
His pulse quickened, but he forced a smile. Of course. She turned the screen toward him, and there it was. A photograph. Not of him and Lila. Not even of his face. It was a blurry image taken from across the street. A man in a suit, unmistakably Daniel's, with his arm draped casually over a woman's shoulder as they walked under a red umbrella. The angle was strange, almost artistic, like something out of a movie, and the rain blurred the edges in a way that made it hauntingly beautiful. He opened his mouth to deny, to invent some harmless explanation, but Marissa clicked to the next image. This one was sharper, and his face was clear. The smile he thought he had hidden now immortalized. "You're wondering how I got these," she said, watching him closely, reading every twitch, every micro-expression. His mind raced through possibilities. Had someone from work told her? Had Lila sent them out of spite? "It's funny," she continued, "how small the world is online. I wasn't looking for you. I was following a travel blog, this street photographer in Singapore. He posts pictures of strangers, little moments he captures on his walks. I've been a fan for months. Last week he posted a series from that stormy night in February. And there you were, arm around her, laughing, the kind of laugh you used to have with me." Daniel felt a coldness spread through him. He imagined the photographer, a complete stranger, lifting his camera in the rain, unknowingly freezing the moment that would unravel his marriage. He wanted to say it was harmless, that it had meant nothing, that it was just the weather, the wine, the loneliness of travel. But the truth was that the photo told a better story than he could invent. Marissa leaned back, eyes steady but not teary. "I don't need to hear your version. I already watched it happen frame by frame." She closed the laptop and stood. He didn't follow her when she walked to the bedroom. He sat alone at the table, thinking about how the world had grown so connected, how a moment in the rain on the other side of the globe could find its way home, pixel by pixel, to the one person he'd hoped would never see it. He thought about the weight of every decision he had made, every lie he had told himself to justify it, every night he had spent convincing himself he was still a good man. Outside, the city continued, oblivious to his downfall. Neon signs flickering, taxis honking, couples laughing in ways that now felt like knives. He realized with sudden clarity that some moments are captured for a reason, that the universe sometimes has a way of ensuring that the truth, no matter how carefully hidden, finds its way into the light. And in that silence, staring at the closed door, Daniel understood that he hadn't just been caught by a stranger with a camera. He had been caught by time, by technology, and by the one person who had always seen him most clearly.